It's the sweltering summer of 844 AD, and the sun-baked streets of Seville, known then as Ishbilia, the jewel of Al-Andalus, suddenly erupt into pandemonium. From the shimmering waters of the Guadalquivir River, which snakes through the heart of modern-day Andalusia in southern Spain, emerge sleek, dragon-prowed longships, their oars slicing silently like predators in the reeds. These are no ordinary invaders. They are Vikings, fierce Norse warriors from the frozen fjords of Scandinavia, who have voyaged thousands of miles across storm-tossed seas to strike at the very core of the Islamic world. In a feat of audacious navigation that stunned contemporaries, these raiders row 100 kilometers upstream, bypassing coastal defenses to sack the Emirate's thriving capital. For 7 harrowing days, or perhaps as long as 40 depending on the chroniclers, they plunder mosques, markets and palaces, enslaving hundreds and leaving a trail of fire and blood. This was no mere skirmish. It was a clash of worlds, where pagan berserkers from the north met the sophisticated guardians of an Islamic golden age. What drove these sea wolves to Al-Andalus? How did the Umayyad forces turn the tide? As a historian steeped in the annals of medieval Europe and the Islamic East, I'll unravel this extraordinary tale, weaving in the geography that shaped it, from the rugged coasts of Galicia to the fertile plains around present-day Seville, and the backstories of the empires that collided. To understand this raid, we must first hark back to the origins of the Vikings, those indomitable seafarers whose legacy echoes in the sagas of Iceland and the runes of Sweden. Emerging from the Scandinavian homelands, modern Norway's steep fjords, Denmark's flat marshes, and Sweden's vast forests, the Norse peoples were a society forged by necessity and ambition. By the late 8th century, overpopulation, scarce arable land, and a warrior ethos pushed them outward. Their longships, marvels of Viking engineering, were shallow drafted vessels up to 30 meters long, powered by sail and oar, capable of hugging coastlines or plunging into rivers. These dragon ships, as Arabic sources called them, enabled hit-and-run raids that terrorized Europe from 793 AD onward, starting with the infamous sack of Lindisfarne Monastery in England, a shocking desecration that heralded the Viking Age. Driven by a mix of plunder, trade and exploration, these pagans worshipped Thor and Odin, viewing warfare as a path to Valhalla. But beneath the berserker rage lay pragmatic explorers. Vikings established trade routes to Byzantium and the Abbasid Caliphate via the Volga River, exchanging furs and slaves for silver dirhams. Yet by the 840s, with Francia, modern France, fortified against them, ambitious chieftains eyed southern shores. One such fleet, likely from Denmark or Vestfold in Norway, set sail in 844, perhaps 54 ships strong, carrying 2,000 warriors hungry for gold and glory. Little did they know they were sailing toward a cultural colossus. Contrast this with the Islamic Empire in Iberia, a beacon of civilization born from conquest and resilience. Al-Andalus, as the Muslims called it, was the western frontier of the Umayyad Caliphate, which had splintered from the Abbasids in Damascus after the tumultuous year of 750 AD. The story begins in 711 AD, when Tariq ibn Ziyad, a Berber general under Musa ibn Nusayr, crossed the Strait of Gibraltar, named after Jabal Tariq, Tariq's mountain, from North Africa. Landing near modern Tarifa in southern Spain, Tariq's 7,000 troops shattered the Visigothic kingdom at the Battle of Guadalete River, just east of today's Cadiz. Within years, Muslim forces swept north, capturing Toledo and Córdoba, establishing an emirate that blended Arab, Berber and local Hispano-Roman influences. Under al-Rahman the sole Umayyad survivor of the Abbasid purge, who fled to Iberia in 755 AD, Al-Andalus flourished as a refuge for scholars and artisans. By 844, under his grandson Abd al-Rahman II, the emirate was a prosperous realm of irrigated orchards, bustling souks, and grand mosques. Córdoba, 80 kilometers north of Seville along the Guadalquivir, rivaled Baghdad in splendor, with libraries housing Greek texts translated into Arabic. Seville itself, strategically positioned on the river's bend in what is now Andalusia's capital, was a vital port for Mediterranean trade, olives, silk and spices flowing from the Levant. Yet, for all its wealth, Al-Andalus was vulnerable at sea. Its rulers relied on cavalry, not a navy, leaving the Atlantic and Guadalquivir approaches exposed. This geographical Achilles heel, the peninsula's jagged western coast, facing the open Atlantic, invited disaster. The Vikings' odyssey to Al-Andalus was a masterclass in maritime audacity, shaped by the Iberian Peninsula's unforgiving geography. Departing from bases in the Loire Valley, or perhaps directly from Denmark, the fleet hugged the Bay of Biscay's treacherous waters, battling gales that Arabic chronicler Al-Mas'udi later described as winds like demons. Their first landfall was in Galicia, the rainy northwest corner of modern Spain, where misty rayas, drowned river valleys, provided sheltered anchorages near present-day A Coruña and its iconic Tower of Hercules, a Roman lighthouse still standing as Europe's oldest. Here, in late summer 844, they ravaged coastal villages, clashing with Asturian forces under the future King Ramiro I near Farum Bracantium, modern Corunna. Local legends preserved in Galician folklore claim divine intervention. Bishop Gonzalo of Britonia prayed at the Masma River's mouth, summoning a storm that wrecked many ships. Miraculously, one vessel survived to warn the fleet, which pressed on southward. Skirting the Costa da Morte's shipwreck-strewn cliffs, they reached the Tagus River estuary, sacking Aljubarrota, ancient Lisbon in Portugal, with its hilltop castle overlooking the modern Alfama district. From there, emboldened, they turned to the Guadalquivir, Andalusia's lifeblood, a 657-kilometer river rising in the Sierra Nevada mountains near Granada and flowing past olive groves to the Atlantic near Sanlúcar de Barrameda. In an extraordinary navigational gamble, the longships, drawing little water, rowed upstream against the current, evading patrols and hugging the marshy Doñana National Park's edges. Today, a UNESCO biosphere reserve teeming with wildlife. After days of tense ascent, they beached at Seville's grassy riverbanks, just below the city's Roman-era bridge, now the Puente de Isabel II. The sack of Seville unfolded like a nightmare from the chronicle of Alfonso III and Ibn al-Qutiyah's accounts, a brutal symphony of clash and conquest. Dawn broke on that fateful October morning. Sources vary on the exact date, but the heat was oppressive, the air thick with the scent of jasmine from nearby gardens. The Vikings, clad in chainmail and wolf pelts, axes gleaming, stormed the unfortified suburbs. Ishbiliya, with its 20,000 souls, was no walled fortress like Córdoba's later Alcázar. Its defenses were illusory, relying on the river's distance from the sea. Warriors poured into the Alcázar quarter, modern Seville's historic core, where the Gothic cathedral now stands, and the Triana neighborhood across the river, looting the great mosque, predecessor to the present cathedral, and merchants' warehouses. They hauled away gold, silver, and slaves, men, women, children, loading longships with Andalusian finery. Embroidered silks from Granada, ivory combs from North Africa, atrocities abounded. Chroniclers report the raiders crucifying 30 captives on the riverbank as a grisly warning, their bodies swaying like grim totems. Panic gripped the city. Emir Abd al-Rahman II in Córdoba received frantic missives as citizens fled to hilltop Carmona, 30 kilometers east, its ancient Roman ruins a hasty refuge. For a week, or up to 40 days per exaggerated Arabic tales, the Vikings held sway, feasting in palaces, their pagan chants echoing through minarets. This was extraordinary, No invader had penetrated so deep into Islamic heartland since the Frankish failure at Roncesvalles in 778 AD. The Norse, mistaking Muslims for Christians at first, hence initial mercy towards some, soon unleashed fury, burning homes and desecrating holy sites. Yet hubris bred vulnerability. Beached ships made them sitting ducks. The Muslim riposte was swift and savage, a testament to Al-Andalus's martial prowess. Abd al-Rahman II, a cultured ruler who patronized poets like Ziryab the musician, mobilized his Berber cavalry, elite horsemen from the Maghreb, modern Morocco, and African levies. Racing south along the Roman Via Augusta, today's A4 highway, they confronted the Vikings in early November near the river's marshes. In a ferocious battle, Umayyad forces unleashed Greek fire, incendiary projectiles from makeshift ships, igniting the Norse vessels in a blaze that lit the night sky. Hundreds of Vikings perished. Survivors fled downstream, abandoning booty. The emir ordered the execution of captured raiders, some burned alive, others beheaded. Their heads displayed on Seville's walls as deterrents. This victory, though Pyrrhic with 300 Muslims slain, galvanized Al-Andalus. Geography played its role. The Guadalquivir's narrow bends funneled the retreat, turning escape into slaughter. In the raid's bizarre aftermath came an even more extraordinary diplomatic twist: the embassy of Al-Ghazal. To forestall repeats, Abd al-Rahman dispatched Yahya ibn Hakam al-Bakri, the poet-diplomat known as Al-Ghazal, the Gazelle for his grace, to the Viking court in 845 AD. Accompanied by another envoy, Al-Ghazal sailed north through Biscay's storms to a misty island, possibly Ireland or Denmark, bearing gifts of ivory, perfumes, and slaves. At the royal hall, he dazzled the king and Queen Nud with Arabic poetry, sparking a legendary flirtation that inspired verses still recited. Vikings, portrayed as recent Christian converts with lingering pagan rites, debated theology with the envoy. Though the truce proved fleeting, raids resumed in 859 under Björn Ironside, who circumnavigated Iberia. The mission highlighted cultural curiosity amid conflict. The legacy of this clash endures in stone and strategy. The 844 raid birthed Al-Andalus's navy, with shipyards at Seville launching galleys that dominated the Strait of Gibraltar. Modern Gibraltar's rock, a sentinel to their power. Fortifications sprouted, watchtowers along Galicia's coast, like those at KharteL, host Viking festivals today. Vikings returned in 859, sacking Algeciras near modern Gibraltar, but the Umayyad fleet pursued them up the Ebro River to Zaragoza, forcing retreat. By the 10th century, under Caliph Abd al-Rahman III, Al-Andalus repelled later Norse probes, its navy controlling Mediterranean trade routes. This untold story, a collision of Norse daring and Islamic ingenuity, reminds us how geography, from Scandinavia's seas to Seville's river, shaped history. In today's Seville, strolling the Guadalquivir's banks amid flamenco echoes, one senses the ghosts of that extraordinary encounter, a pivotal chapter in the medieval world's hidden wars.